So when you're working with a cash investor or a cash home buyer, there's probably a series of questions that you'll want to ask just to ensure that who they're representing themselves as is actually the same person who's ultimately going to be there in the end. And one of the biggest questions that I always encourage everybody to ask is ultimately, are you going to be the one to purchase this home? That's a very important question because in the industry of buying homes for cash, the majority of the companies out there are not necessarily like KC Property Guys. With KC Property Guys, we're the ones who walk the house. We're the ones who negotiate and work with homeowners to create a sales price. We're the ones who write up that contract. We're ultimately the ones who close with our professional closing company, which we pay for on the day of closing. We're the ones who pay for that house. We're the ones who buy it. We're the ones who change the utilities. We do all the work and ultimately we sell it. But that is the exception to the rule. Many of the buyers out there who look like a cash investor ultimately are not going to be the ones that buy that property. And the reason for that is there is fine print in those contracts that ultimately say that they have the right as the buyer to transfer the rights of that property to another buyer. And many times that buyer's never found. And so there is a large majority, I can't speak to percentages, but there's a large majority of those contracts that go unsatisfied. And through that, if that contract isn't satisfied and that contractor or the investor does not have the cash to buy the house, then they're either going to disappear or they're going to try to renegotiate a deal with you and your price is going to change. It doesn't necessarily work that way with with KC Property Guys, but that's an important question to ask. Are you the ones who are ultimately going to be the ones buying this property? What are you going to do with the property? What's your goals? What's the end game here for you? You're going to rehab it? Are you going to rent it? Are you going to try to ultimately sell it to another investor? If it matters to you, that's an important question. If you want to establish credibility, so how long have you been in the business? How many houses do you sell a year? What's your website? Do you have a profile or a corporation with Kansas and or Missouri? Do you have a Better Business Bureau? Reputation? I mean, establishing credibilities with someone who you are entrusting with what is most likely your lifetime's largest investment is probably pretty prudent and pretty important to do. So hopefully those few questions will help you decipher whether you're working with a reputable cash home buyer or not. And if you're not, regardless of the price, it's probably better off for you to maybe go down the line and find someone that you can trust with your investment.